Everybody, what's going on? And today we are playing Fort from Leader Games. Excited, Sarah?
I am excited.
So, what is Fort?
Fort is a deck building game. So deck building games are where you start with each player has a similar or identical deck of cards, and over the course of the game you add new cards to the deck. In this particular deck builder, there's an interesting mechanism where you can not only end up with cards from your opponent's deck, but also you can follow the leader. So in this case, the leader would be the active player, and on the active player's turn, if they play certain cards, then other players can follow them, which means that if you have the right cards when the leader plays a card, you can discard cards to do what the leader has done as well, in part. So that's one unique thing about this. And then another thing is, like I said, it may end up that cards from my deck end up in my opponent's hand, and that kind of thing. So a couple interesting things going on here. It's supposed to be a fairly quick game. I think the box time is like 20 to 40 minutes. Yeah, 20 to 40 minutes. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays. It looks cute, and
The components are pretty good quality.
yes, fantastic quality. They have these like dual layer boards, so that there's like insets here, here, and here, and I appreciate that when you have like tokens that you are moving along tracks and stuff like that. I think it's really nice to have dual layer boards because they're not gonna like slip out or anything, and you like physically pick it up and move it. So I really appreciate dual layer boards, and these are nicely done. So yeah, it's cute artwork, and everything is sort of relaxed. The colors are a little bit muted, and there's nothing like overly serious or anything like that in it. So I think it's going to be like a sort of a laid back sort of experience.
Yeah. And we're also camping ourselves in our own little fort.
We are.
So which is nice.
Yeah.
Alright, well we'll get back to you guys mid-game, and we'll talk to you guys in a bit. Toodles! Hello, Sarah. So we are at the halfway point of Fort, and what are you thinking so far?
I like it. It's unique. It's interesting. It's more challenging than the cutesy nature of the game would initially lead one to believe. There are a couple things that I want to point out that I've really appreciated so far. One is that the rulebook is well written, but at the end there's a section that shows you all of the potential actions that you will see on your cards, and it's all iconography. And sometimes in games like these, where there's a lot of iconography, it's for your first few games until you really know what the iconography means. You're like constantly looking back through the rule book, trying to figure out what it means. But they've included these action cards that show all of the icons that you might see in the game. And I haven't had to look back through the rule book for the icons, not once. This has been, I just had to kind of glance over at it, check where I'm looking at, and it's been, no flipping through the rulebook, which has been really, really nice, because when I first saw that in the rulebook, I was like, man, I hope it's not a lot of like looking back in the rules and trying to figure out what the cards do, and it hasn't been, not at all, because of this. So that, I really appreciate that. And then another thing I wanted to point out was, it's a kind of a small thing, but we noticed that this character right here is in a wheelchair, and I think it's really cool that they're representing kids with disabilities, because I was a kid with disabilities, and it's not something that you see a lot in games, representation of people with disabilities or people who are just different in general. So it's really cool that they're representing kids with disabilities. So that's neat. What do you think, Nick?
I like so there's the drafting of the cards that come out in the park, but then I just finished my turn, and now I have all these cards in the yard, so there's even more choices for Sarah on her turn. That it's kind of like it took a whole nother twist on hate drafting.
For sure.
It just
but
is like
it's not too harsh, because no matter what, players can only take one card. So
yeah.
I can either top deck, I can choose one of the ones from the general supply, or I can take one of these. But no matter what, I can only take one. So even though Nick had to put four cards out this round, it's not like I could just scoop up all his cards.
Yeah,
You know?
and I mean, like, then you could get a card that you want that you've been like, oh, that's nice for you, so maybe I'll take it for.
And there's another interesting thing about the sort of sharing cards back and forth thing, and that's that some of the cards, a lot of the cards, have 2 action areas. And this top one is for the active player, or in this game, they're called the leader. This one can be performed only by the leader, but the secondary action can be performed by the leader or not, their choice, and by every other player, their choice. So when you play a card like this, you get to do both things if you want, or just one or the other if you want. But every other player has the option of doing the second thing, and this creates an interesting choice about which cards you're putting into your yard, because there was actually a card, and I think Nick has already picked it up. Yeah, it was this one, or one similar to this. So this one, the active player can improve their fort, and the active player and every other player can improve their fort at a discount of 1 resource. So I actually had this card in my deck and wasn't able, well, chose not to use it on a turn. So it ended up in my yard, and Nick took it, and now it's in his hand. Now, if he ever plays this card, I will have the ability of upgrading my fort at a discount. So this was kind of a card where at first I thought like, oh, nice, I can upgrade my fort. But then when I realized that I was going to be allowing my opponent to upgrade their fort at a discount, I was like, maybe if Nick could take this card, then if he plays it, then I can get the discount. So when you're putting cards into your yard, it's not just about, well, which cards do I want to use this turn so I can keep them out of my yard. It's also, you know, there's a bit of strategic nature about, hey, if I put this particular card into my yard and my opponent does choose to take this one, when they play it, I'm going to get to do whatever this thing is right here. And sometimes that can be really, really cool. So
Yeah.
there is like a totally new level of strategy that comes into play about, well, because when you're playing your cards, you can play any number of cards as long as they can sort of be played together. Like, for example, this one right here. This one lets me put a resource into my pack for every glue that I use. So if I had this card in my hand as well, I could add this to increase the amount of glue that I'm using this turn. So then I would be able to put in items into my pack. I'd be able to put in 3 because I'm using 3 glues. And this would mean that both of these cards will not end up in my yard. But when you're making the choice about which cards to play, like I said, I feel like it just adds another level of interesting thought process to which cards you're going to play that turn, so that those cards that you don't play will end up in your yard. And then strategically, like I said, if you can get your opponent to
Feed it to your opponent and be like,
Exactly.
hey, this is nice,
Yeah,
you can do
exactly.
this, and I could do it too.
Yeah, exactly. So that adds a whole nother level of like sort of interesting decisions. And I would say it's not necessarily a primary decision on, you know, well, I'm not going to play this card just so I can get it into my yard. But I would say that it helps you to kind of figure out on your turn, like you can sort of prioritize, well, I really, really want to play this card because it's going to get me the benefit that I want the most. But then also, if I don't play this other card, it'll end up in my yard, and that's, you know, possibly good. So I think it just adds a whole nother layer of interesting thought process while you're playing the game. So
Awesome. We'll go ahead and finish out our game of Fort, and we'll get back to you to see who is a winner and who is the loser of the forts. So, how's it going?
it's going well.
Did you win or did you lose?
So this game is all about children building forts. I'm pretty sure that my kids took it really literally, and we built like a military grade fort and destroyed Nick's little gang of children.
They were just kids. They're children.
Hard. Real hard.
Screaming in the streets of little Billy breaking his leg because one took a skateboard to the
A
face.
total of 53 points, and Nick had a total of 36 points.
Oh, yeah, that was quite rough. But I did quite enjoy this one.
Yeah, it was neat. There's definitely some interesting things happening
I
here.
do definitely want to play this one again. And I kind of went in all in one kind of faction. So I tried just kind of one card when I should have done maybe a few here, a few there.
There are
It's-
6 in total, 6
Yeah.
different factions. And they do have some synergies. So this little set symbol in the upper left-hand corner, that tells you what faction the cards are. And there are some benefits to playing like
one or the other, having more of one. Like, there's a. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't spread out the love a little bit. I was only like, these faction of children look like they're gonna do great things, because I had a lot at the beginning, so I was like, okay, let's just go into that when I should have, had a little bit of everything, because then that would have helped out a lot.
I don't know if you need a little bit of everything. Like I said, there are 6.
You had a little bit of everything, but also you had the right little bit of everything.
There are 6 faction symbols, and I think I really focused my efforts on like 3 of the faction
Well, see,
symbols.
but 3, like, that's still, it's not everything, but it's still a little bit of something. Yeah. And it was just enough to, I was really focusing on 1. So that's probably the difference in scoring, because I focused on 1, you focused on 3, you had more of a strategy, I had more of like, maybe like a tunnel vision strategy of just like, oh, just do this one faction and you'll win, which I was like, my empire of children. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. If you have not played for it, or if you like deck building, definitely take up on this. Is a pretty good deck builder. It's almost like I feel a little bit like Mystic Veil in the sense of Mystic Veil brought card crafting to the game, and with this one, it brings a different flavor to hate drafting. Hate drafting kind of got a little different. You can take certain cards from people's, their deck, but you don't have to focus everything on that. But then also,
I felt like it was like strategic hate drafting, where you weren't hate drafting
like
to
the
be
whole
like
thing.
hateful. You were
just
hate
like-
drafting to be strategic.
Yeah, it was like a strategic hate draft, which is interesting in the game, because it just takes another turn and focus on different things. Like, you have to pay a little more attention to what your opponent's doing and what their little engine. And it's like, can you even disassemble their engine by taking like a card? But it was definitely interesting. I like it. I like it a lot. I like this. I think you probably like this better than Leader's Root. Shh. Oh, it's okay.
Okay,
buddy.
it's all right.
Shh. That's our puppy. He likes to defend.
It's all right. It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's just grandma. It's just grandma. It's okay. It's grandma. It's okay. We're gonna go for a
okay.
walk in just a minute. So, so to me, Fort is a little bit more accessible than Root. I do like the art in Root better, though. A
Yeah.
lot cuter art in Root than in this one, in my opinion.
Yep.
All right, well, our puppy Pooch
7 fits.
wants to go out, so we're gonna take the boy out.
All right. Well, toodles, everybody. We're going to be going. Bye.